All right, Andy, it's time for another Gas and Go on a Friday, July the 4th. Real quickly here, folks, before we get too deep into things, a very happy and a safe 4th of July to everybody out there. If you're shooting off fireworks, whether you did them on Thursday night, whether you're doing them tonight, whether you're doing them sometime this weekend, please do be safe and don't go blowing appendages off. Actually, be smart with your fireworks. But either which way, happy 4th of July to everybody. I'm producer Wayne, that's Andrew DeLay, and it is time to get into a gas and go here on a Friday. Andy, we got some news prior to the Chicago street race coming up this weekend here. And not only do we have Chicago, we have got Mid-Ohio coming up for IndyCar, and we have Silverstone and the British Grand Prix coming up for Formula One this weekend. So
Lots of good stuff.
lots of stuff to talk about. And actually, one of the biggest headlines that I saw this morning when doing a little bit of research here is, you ready for this one? Daniel Suarez will not return to Trackhouse Racing next year.
Yes, I see that. And Suarez says, don't be unhappy about it. But you know what that really means, don't you?
That means he's got another deal already in the works.
Well, that too. And this weekend, Corey Haim's making his Cup Series debut with that team. And guess what I think? I think that Corey Haim's probably going to go full-time Cup racing next year.
I would not be surprised if that were the case. And, I love the way Suarez put it, where he's like, don't be unhappy that I'm leaving, because I think even he realized he wasn't doing as good as he potentially could have been doing. And, he wanted to go ahead and just hand the ride over to somebody he knows can.
I guess you could say that. Or they gave him the boot and he found another home already. One of the two.
Yeah, one of the two. But either which way here, the 33-year-old driver from Mexico. Honestly, the accolade of winning the Mexico race, that's pretty cool in its own right from the Xfinity side of things too. So, and he's had a better couple of last few years than he did originally when he first came into the NASCAR Cup Series. So it's been good to see his performance, get better over time. But we'll just have to see where he lands for 2026 here coming up in the near future.
He'll find a home.
Oh yeah, he'll find a home, no doubt. And but we got to move on along here, Andy, because we were. I was expecting to get some content from our social media guru, Mr. Zachary Murdis, from Wednesday night here, the Cars Tour. They were out in Asheboro, North Carolina, over at Caraway Speedway, and Jared Fryer takes home the win there on Wednesday night, leading up to the 4th of July. And from what I heard, from what Zach was telling me, there was, I believe it was Landon Huffman actually. Landon Huffman got into a bit of a scuffle with somebody on track, which actually led to from what Zach was telling me, very, very heated discussion with Kevin Harvick post race.
Oh, I can tell you that Huffman was not happy. He said that he had the fastest car out there and that this stuff always happens. Well, yeah, it's racing, baby.
Yeah, it is. It's racing, baby. But then, you got Landon Lewis, you got Landon Huffman, you've got Jared Fryer. You've got some big names coming up in the world of the Cars Tour here. And the thing is, Landon Lewis had it going on, and Landon Huffman just didn't.
That's the way it is.
And so. But yeah, I got a crack out of it here because I think it was if I remember Zach telling me the story correctly. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm sure Zach will correct me on social media. But if I remember the story correctly, is that Landon Huffman was actually going to try to go to Landon Lewis's hauler and recreate the Kyle Busch, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. scenario all over again at Caraway.
Oh my God!
And but in the process of making his way to the hauler, he runs into Kevin Harvick, and he gave Harvick an earful, and Harvick gave him twice the earful.
Okay.
So
it just kills me. All of a sudden, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is painted as some badass in the racing world.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a race car driver, and listen, a guy may be able to stick up for himself, but he runs around with his dad by his side and all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And his dad tries to get in there and gets his ass kicked and thrown out of NASCAR for a while. And, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. to me isn't a badass.
No.
Sorry, Ricky.
No.
If you want to kick my ass.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he'd probably try, but I guarantee you, with your years of law enforcement training, you'd probably have him on the ground in about 30 seconds.
I'm not claiming to be a Joe badass. I'm just an old man.
But I'm just speaking facts, though. Your law enforcement training would give you a nice advantage, though.
Thanks. I'm glad you believe in this old guy. But anyway, Ricky, I'm not challenging you to a brouhaha, but geez almighty, man. That one deal with Kyle Busch, everyone paints this guy as some type of Jimmy Spencer now or something.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is they try and paint him as the current gen Jimmy Spencer, and I got news for everybody out there. There's never going to be a Jimmy Spencer copycat. Never.
No, not at all.
Nope. One thing about Jimmy, he would shoot his mouth off, but he would back it up.
Yeah, and he did it with a cigar sticking out of his mouth all the time, too.
So yeah. On more than one occasion. On more than one occasion. And he'd do it while he was sitting in the cockpit of the car, too.
Yeah, exactly. Ask Kurt Busch what it's like to run your mouth to freaking Jimmy Spencer.
Yep. And what's funny? We bring this up, too, because I actually saw something on Facebook earlier today when I was looking around at, various reels and other things like that, where Tony Stewart actually was sitting down doing a podcast interview. I can't remember where it was at. But Smoke, he actually was very candid and was saying something to the effect of, if I could go back in time and, redo some things in my life, the two things that I would redo would be, one, to not go to that New York race, because and this is what kills me. He is still blamed for everything that happened in that wreck to this day by people who have no fucking clue what went on at that event. And I'm sorry, folks, if you don't know the whole detail behind it, don't open your fucking mouth, because you have no clue what actually happened. Dude that got hit, there was clearly some other issues there that Tony could not avoid, and that was a whole thing in its own right. But the other thing that was going on there too, that Tony mentioned, he's like, if I could go back in my NASCAR career, yes, I did not agree with everything they said or did. I still don't agree with everything they said or did, but I would like to go back in my career and be a lot more respectful of people. I would like to be a little bit nicer to people that I should have been nicer to, and I would have probably gotten further along in my career as far as things are concerned. And in reality, he's right. If he would have toned it down just a few notches during his time in the NASCAR Cup Series, I'm pretty sure he would have probably done better. But in the same right, though, the brash arrogance on wanting to win every single week, he pretty much put it all out there on the table, like other drivers probably should have or could have, and they didn't.
How did we get down this rabbit hole?
I don't know. Somehow we did. Talking about Landon Lewis and Landon Huffman almost getting the blows from
that's right.
Caraway. But I mean, hey, this is the beauty of podcasting. You can find one topic and you can end up spider webbing down to like 4 or 5 other topics while you're at it.
I love it.
But moving on along here now, folks, we're going to jump into the world of the NHRA here, Andy, and the NHRA, they're ready to roll again here. The Mission Foods Drag Racing Series annual trip now heads to Pacific Raceways for the, I had to make sure I looked at that right, the Muckleshoot Casino Resort NHRA Northwest Nationals, and that'll be coming up here in just a couple of weeks' time on July 18th through the 20th.
Good. Another win for Gage Herrera.
Most likely. Most likely here. And I'm actually just double checking to make sure what stuff we've got going on this weekend, or that weekend in particular here. It looks like there's going to be another Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge. Of course, it's the 11th race of the 2025 schedule. Last year, Steve Torrance in Top Fuel, Austin Prock in Funny Car, Jed Coughlin Jr. in Pro Stock, and Chase Van Zandt in Pro Stock Motorcycles all picked up victories, while Justin Ashley, Proc, Aaron Stanfield, and Gage Herrera won the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge bonus race. So Gage did win something in the Northwest Nationals last year. It wasn't the actual Wally, but just like most of this year, he's won pretty much most of the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenges. So
Okay, cool.
good stuff. So we're gonna have all those different classes coming back for the Northwest Nationals here in a couple of weeks' time. Moving on along to IndyCar now, and I was thinking about this, Andy, because Zach was, obviously he was asking us for our picks for everything this week, not just Cup and Xfinity going into Chicago, but also for IndyCar and Formula One. And as we mentioned at the top of the show here, IndyCar is going to be at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex this weekend, and if I remember the last couple of races pretty well, Will Power actually did fairly well at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Complex. I personally think he's going to have a good chance to show off and show out again this weekend.
Okay, good deal. I hate to say I don't follow IRL, so
Yeah, it's funny, folks. I don't get a chance to always stay up on my NASCAR like I used to back in the day, and I'm more the NHRA IndyCar guy, and Andy's the NASCAR guy now, and it's like where did this switch come about? Because years ago,
good question.
Andy used to be the IndyCar and Formula One guy, and I was more the NASCAR and NHRA guy.
I know what happened is I started. I was doing that daily piece on radio stations all over the
Oh
U.S.
yeah, the Burning Rubber Racing Report. Yep.
Yeah, and I started calling on the F1 guys and butchering everyone's name.
Oh,
and it was the end of that.
That was funnier than hell. He still does it to this day, folks. I'm being honest here, off the air, because I don't let him pronounce a lot of the names on the air just because of that. And but off the air though, he'll call somebody something. I'll be like, huh?
Well, if you sound out the name, what I would do is not only sound out the name, but I'd say, hey, listen, maybe my good old Southern boy stuff don't work. Let me go on YouTube and look up the name and listen to how other people say it. And then I'd say it that way, and it'd still be wrong.
Right. Well, one in particular that always was fun to talk about when we talk about like Formula One and stuff like that, which we're going to touch on here in a minute with Silverstone, is Charles Leclerc, and whenever you listen to the guy in the booth running the broadcast, he's always like Charles Leclerc, and I'm like, the hell. Like, did we give the guy a nickname and we just don't know it? Like, because that's what it sounds like to me. But back to point at hand here, though, we do have Mid-Ohio coming up this weekend here, and Mid-Ohio actually is another spot, Andy. I think you've been to with the SCCA, wasn't it?
Yep. I called a few things on the Hoosiers Super Tour there at the Mid-Ohio. Very cool place, nice place.
Yeah, and folks, if you do a lot of sim racing, if you haven't already bought it, and I'm surprised you haven't at this point, unless you just don't like road courses, is Mid-Ohio is also available on iRacing too. So if you want to take a few laps around Mid-Ohio and learn the track and think about what you're looking at, go take a look at it on iRacing. It's pretty cool. But now one thing about Mid-Ohio too, Andy, that always catches my attention here is that really tight hairpin turn in turns 2 and 3 as you're coming around, almost like a very tight paperclip turn right there.
Okay, you mean after you pass under and turn left to go down the straightaway, and then the hard right-hander? Yeah.
Yep. I mean, you're literally doing a full 180 coming around turns 2 and 3 right there.
Yep, and you're hauling it down from being WFO coming down that stretch there. So that's always a hell of a runoff point right there for folks that will get off track.
Oh yeah, and more people go off track right there than I think ever happened at Watkins. More people go off track at Mid Ohio in turns 2 and 3 than they do in turns 5 and 6, right? Or excuse me, not turns 5 and 6, turns 1 or turn 1 right there in the sand trap.
Yes. And which is paved now.
Well, yeah, it's paved now, but
yes.
It used to be kitty litter back in the day.
Oh yeah, everyone gets stuck in that crap.
Yep. So don't be surprised, folks, if this weekend during the Mid Ohio race for IndyCar, you hear about numerous people going off track right there in turns 2 and 3. But again, Mid Ohio for a road course, great track. Much like Watkins Glen. One of my, I wouldn't say one of my top 5 favorites, but it's definitely one of my favorite tracks.
It is. It's in my top 5.
Mm-hmm. Well, Watkins Glen will always forever be my top as far as road courses go, and also just happens to be like 5 minutes from where family live too, so it's easily accessible.
Isn't that the track they almost threw your ass out of?
That's what they tried. They thought about doing it, yeah, and I'm just like, here. All because I wanted to have a picture of Kyle Larson for a headline shot. And then, I had a couple of fans ask to see how the picture turned out. And I show them the picture, and NASCAR looks at me like, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't fangirl down there when you're media, buddy.
Well, that's the thing. I wasn't fangirling. I was actually just showing a picture off to the fans that wanted to see how the picture turned out. So,
well, you know how I know this? Everyone's like, okay. Well, the next week I show up at Daytona with Wayne. Well, Wayne wasn't there first, and NASCAR calls me into the hauler in the media center and starts ripping my ass about how we can't act like fans. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, NASCAR?
Right.
And so I had to go in there and start sticking up for my buddy over here. And
the funny thing is the one guy that was actually overseeing media down there for Daytona, he was like, you know what? I believe you. I feel like you're doing the right thing, and I'm going to give you a chance. But God knows that woman that was at Watkins Glen, she was down there that weekend, and I could just feel her stare just eating my soul.
Yeah, and since then, I don't think I've tried to put media credentials.
Yeah,
with NASCAR.
Honestly, I think until the day she leaves NASCAR, I don't think we're ever going to go back to another race personally.
To be honest with you, been there, done that, man. You can only see so many of those things before you're like,
yeah. And realistically, I mean, I knocked the 2 races off of my bucket list anyway with Watkins Glen and Daytona, so I'm good, literally.
Yeah, we're good.
And but either way,
good Lord, we're going down rabbit holes today.
Yeah, we are. But hey, you know what? We're having fun. We've got some pretty cool content to really go off of this week. The clip machine is going to go insane, but we love it.
Yes, it will.
Moving on along here, last story to cover here for the week before we get out of here, folks, is that, again, we do have Silverstone and the British Grand Prix this weekend coming up here, Andy, and with that, Silverstone provides its own unique challenges when it comes to...
You're not going to cover NASCAR in Chicago?
I mean, we did technically a little bit already, but yeah, we can circle back to it. That's no big deal.
Okay, but go ahead. Sorry.
Jesus. Oh, trust me, I know. If I forget NASCAR, Floyd Updegrove, you forgot NASCAR.
The minister of misinformation over here.
Oh God, man! I swear, if I ever meet Floyd in person, I'll probably Bart Simpson choke his ass like. But either way, oh God, love you, Floyd, asshole. But moving on along here, though, speaking of Formula One, Silverstone does provide its own unique challenges as we've seen in years past. The interesting thing, though, too, Andy, if you think about it from a Formula One perspective this year, Verstappen is, I mean, he's won a couple of races, but he is not. He's not the top dog like he normally is at this point in the season. In fact, actually, if I remember reading the point standings correctly, I believe it was Thursday I looked at them. Right now, he's sitting third or fourth in the overall point chart.
Okay.
And so
You whooped their ass last year, but this year the whooping ain't quite what it was, I guess.
no, this year it's been Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri that have been doing a lot of the ass kicking, as they currently sit 1 and 2 on the point chart here. Piastri first and Norris in second. And knowing the way Silverstone likes to run, especially since I've heard they are calling for a little bit of rain over there this weekend, so that obviously is going to make things very interesting when it comes to Formula One, because they will still run in the rain over there with Formula One too, which is even more interesting. I think Lando Norris actually has, in my opinion, the best chance to win Silverstone because he's done fairly well at that track in the past.
Okay.
And but so I don't get in trouble with Mr. Eptigrove, we're going to go ahead and get ready for the Chicago street races this weekend here. And it is also, Andy, race number 2 in that in-season $1 million challenge.
Okay, good.
And
I'm looking forward to this weekend, man, because the folks are down there, wearing their body armor and Chicago, and people in Chicago, Chicagoans or folks that live there, whatever you call them.
Chicagoans, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all pissing and moaning about the race, snarling up traffic and everything down there. So I don't see how the hell NASCAR is going to want to go back to the place.
Personally, I don't either, but, because if I remember right, after the first race that actually went on the air, wasn't there talk that the mayor was just like, no, this will never happen again?
Yeah, that Lori Lightfoot, that was the mayor at the time. Yeah, exactly. Whatever, who cares?
Well, I mean, she's a libtard anyway, but we won't go into politics.
Well, we just lost 7 to 10 followers right there. Anyway.
Well, you know what? Honestly, I could care less. Your politics are your views. I have my views on them. If you don't like my view, here's to you. But. The end season challenge round 2 though, and we'll talk about that real quick here before we get done for the week. Round 2, Andy, is going to see Ty Dillon versus Brad Kay. I have a feeling. Well, I don't have a feeling. I'm pretty confident that Brad Kay is going to be the one to move on to the next round in that bracket for the end season challenge. We'll see Alex Bowman pitted against Bubba Wallace. Pretty safe bet that Alex Bowman is going to make that call up. Chase Elliott versus John Hunter Nemechek. I'm going to go with Chase Elliott for that move. Eric Jones versus Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I'm going to go with Eric Jones on that one. What do you think?
Yeah, if not, Ricky will figure out a reason to go whip his ass if he gets beat on that anyway.
Yeah, right, exactly.
At least threaten him.
Yeah, right. And then on the other side of the bracket here, we've got Zane Smith versus Chris Buescher. I'm going to give that one to Buescher.
Yeah, I don't care. Chris Buescher's my friend. Go.
Exactly.
Chris.
And then we've got AJ Allmendinger versus Ty Gibbs. I'm going to...
Oh, AJ Allmendinger all day long on a road course?
Yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, you figure if it were on an intermediary track, it would definitely be a toss up. But
I'd go there, yeah.
But road courses, I'm with you. I'll give it to AJ.
AJ will whoop his ass on a road course.
Oh yeah. And then on the next side here, we've got Tyler Reddick versus Carson Hocevar. As much as I'm a friend of Carson Hocevar's, I got to give this one to Tyler Reddick.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one too.
And then the last one for the in-season challenge this week, Noah Gragson versus Ryan Preece. I'm gonna give this one to Preece.
Oh my gosh, that's my toss-up right there. Yeah, I will give it to Preece just because he's another buddy of ours.
Exactly. And but speaking of point standings, all that other fun stuff here, folks. I know we ran it down on Monday, but we'll give you a quick run of the top 5 here. William Byron, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Hendrick Motorsports top 3 in the point standings. No shocker there.
Yeah, our Jeremy Taylor puts those cars together every week. He's real happy about that.
Oh, yeah. And Denny Hamlin sits in fourth, Christopher Bell in fifth. And then speaking of the last in-season challenger that we just mentioned, Tyler Reddick sitting in sixth, just on the outside, looking in by 18 points actually to get up into the top five. So if Tyler has a really good run this weekend coming up at Chicago, we may very well see him creep his way into the top five in the point standings.
Tyler Reddick is a hell of a driver, man. Don't count him out of anything.
Nope, not at all.
And he's won on road courses.
He has. Coda to be more specific.
Yes, sir.
And so, but with that said here, folks, we have got to wrap it up for the Gas and Go on a Friday, 4th of July weekend. As you're watching this video, shoot you off some fireworks, enjoy some barbecue, some hamburgers, some hot dogs. I know I'm going to probably enjoy a few libations tonight just because.
And I was going to say, man, I'm working tonight, so don't drink and drive or you'll end up meeting me.
Yeah. Don't meet don't meet this guy. Instead, actually, before I go on off time, call me. I will get you home safely.
That's right.
And law enforcement versus Uber driver.
No dang Uber driver. Everyone, I'm going to stick up for Wayne, says he won't for himself. Wayne owns his own business. Very proud of what he's done here, and with a lightning fast transport in Statesville, North Carolina, folks. If you need a ride, seriously, give Lightning Fast a call. And I'm proud of our Wayne Owens. He's doing a hell of a job over there.
Well, I appreciate that, brother. And of course, like I always tell you, I'm more than supportive of what you do in the world of law enforcement over there. 37 years now you got in there total?
37 years, man. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I just keep going and going and going.
Yep. And even when the battery starts to fade a little bit, it's just like, oh, I'm here.
Yeah, the wife says, I don't want this, I don't want that. Oh, I guess I'm not retiring.
Oh, God. And she's probably in the other room like, what did he say about me?
Luckily, no, she's not.
I'll make sure to call her later and tell her that just to see her reaction.
Oh, boy. Anyway, happy 4th of July.
Yep,
everybody.
happy 4th of July, everybody. We love you guys. We will see you after Chicago on Monday to break down everything that happened from the weekend. I'm pretty sure there's going to be fireworks, not only in Chicago, but Mid-Ohio and at Silverstone. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. Have a great one. We love you, and we'll see you soon.
Burn and rubber, baby. Yeah.